There are some debates that stand the test of time. Cats versus dogs, heroes versus villains, Rin versus Saber, versus Sakura. But one of the most fiercest, intense, and violent debates of all was Chulainn versus Chulainn prototype. Until about 2 years ago, when we all agreed the Fate Stay Night version was just better. But is that really true? Let's find out. Welcome to Fate Servant Wars, Episode 2. Chulainn versus Chulainn prototype. Alright, before we begin, let's lay the ground rules. Both Chulainns have a very clear and distinct role throughout their time in FGO. In the early game, they both serve as veritable DPS options. Lancer Crew and Lancer Crew prototype are excellent boss killers and thus can fulfill this niche very early in the game. However, as higher rarity servants begin to arrive and opponents begin to become tougher, they're both going to take on something of a reduced role, each fulfilling a specific niche. So today's evaluation is going to be generally quite holistic. Not only are we going to evaluate their early game potential, but also that of their late game roles as well. With that said, let's begin. We start with the younger, prototype version of the legendary Celtic hero, who is one of the most versatile free-to-play damage dealers in FGO, and is thus particularly useful in the early game. His noble phantasm, Gaebod, is an excellent archer and berserker boss-killing noble phantasm. Gaebod also comes with an instant death mechanic, which, while pretty unreliable, can be useful against bronze or silver monk enemies who have high health, who may be able to be taken down in one shot. In addition, he also has solid critical damage through his first skill, Rune Spell Rank B, which improves his crit damage by as much as 45%. Furthermore, his critical hit is complete after his third skill, Beast Slayer, has been ranked up to rank B++. This improves his critical star gather rate. Both of these buffs, the crit damage and the gather rate buff, are 3 turns, allowing him to become a sustained critical damage dealer. And while he will need help generating stars for this role, one area where he won't is in terms of survivability. He has the evade skill, Protection from Arrows rank B, which grants him 3 hits of evade on a 5-turn cooldown. In the long term, as stronger lancers begin to arrive and opponents become more difficult, he will begin to take a step back. Instead of a crit damage dealer who's a primary DPS, he will instead evolve more into an anti-wild beast specialist, facilitated again through Beast Slayer, which after being ranked up, comes with a 100% damage bonus against wild beasts, of which you'll be facing many throughout the game. Proto Crew's strength can further be augmented if he is used alongside Skata Skadi, but typically as at least she is half of his mentor. She grants him a massive quick damage buff through Primordial Rune, and a quick critical damage buff for 3 turns. She also gives him a vital NP battery, giving him access to Gaebod, as well as being able to debuff defense. If you want to find out more about Proto Crew and what makes him such an excellent free-to-play lancer, check out my 3-star superstars video on him, which you can find in the card just above. Now, we've established that he's a pretty good servant, so what's the problem? Well, the first major issue is that what he gains in versatility, he sacrifices in proficiency. While he is a solid damage dealer and well-rounded, as opponents become more difficult to defeat and stronger lancers arrive in Chaldea, he simply becomes less useful outside of his wild beast niche as he lacks the damage to take opponents down. His noble phantasm is comparatively weaker to other lancers, especially his older counterpart. Furthermore, his critical damage, while solid, is not quite enough to outrank higher rarity alternatives, meaning this niche isn't as valuable as well. Overall, he is an excellent versatile damage dealer who is quite survivable. Furthermore, by having the anti-wild beast trait, he will be useful deep into the Lost Belts. However, as a frontline damage dealer, he has very little utility beyond the first few singularities, leading his role to be greatly diminished.
おのれ雑種雑種
あ？何？今の全力？
The Elder Fate Stay Night version of Chulainn is a premier archer boss killer who later develops into a last stand and soloist option. Once again, he brings the spear Gaebod as his Noble Phantasm, which is a top-tier archer and berserker killing Noble Phantasm. However, unlike his prototype version, he gets a rank up which makes it even stronger, improving its damage and also giving it a sure hit to ensure those pesky evades don't get in the way. Like his younger self, he too has the instant death trait on Gaebod, but again, this only applies against certain enemies. This makes him a far superior boss killer to his younger version, both due to his higher base damage and his improved Noble Phantasm. That said, he's also very fitting for another role in the team aside from this boss killing role, and that is as a last stand option. This is because his entire kit is dedicated to his survival, making him one of the most durable servants in the entire game. Like his younger self, he has the protection from Arrow's rank B skill, which grants 3 hits of evade on a 5-turn cooldown, but his survivability does not end there. He also has Battle Continuation, which grants Guts for 1 time over 5 turns on a 7-turn cooldown. Further still, he also has a debuff cleanse through his Disengage skill. This gives him all the tools he needs to survive. He has Disengage to remove debuffs, Evade to dodge damage, and Battle Continuation to ensure he survives. Many of these same tools that make him a last stand option also allow him to be an excellent soloist, able to take down foes that are seemingly far stronger than himself. Way beyond the singularities, into Epic of Remnant and even the Lost Belts, Rune has potential to solo some very difficult bosses. Like his younger self, Rune is also well used alongside Skata Skadi. While her quick critical buff from Primordial Rune is less important now, her quick buff, in addition to the defensive debuff and NP battery, simply become all the more valuable. Yet despite being ranked among the premier lancers and best free-to-play servants in the game, Rune does have issues. The main one is that he lacks any form of offensive steroid in his kit, beyond a meager divine passive buff which he shares with his younger self. This makes particularly his critical damage notably mediocre, especially compared to the more versatile Proto Crew. Furthermore, he also lacks any form of star generation. This makes Crew a fairly one-trick pony on the offensive front, so despite his phenomenal survivability, he will eventually struggle in comparison to higher rarity lancers on the damage front, except of course when it comes to his Noble Phantasm. Both Lancer variants of Chulainn are excellent servants, so which is better? Well, on the one hand, Proto Crew is a far superior all-around damage dealer, especially in the early game. On the other hand, he does lack the survivability of his elder self, possessing neither a gut skill nor a debuff cleanse. Furthermore, he's also less effective at boss killing. Not only is his damage inferior to that of his older self, he also lacks the lore-driven sure hit status, meaning his Noble Phantasm can be more easily dodged. Chulainn is simply a boss killer with excellent survivability, able to survive even in the most perilous of circumstances. Thus, despite Proto Crew's value in the short term, it is the Fate Stay Night version of Chulainn who is undoubtedly the more valuable servant in the long term. This is not only because he retains his boss killing status on account of Gaebod's impressive damage, he also has that invaluable last stand role that will serve masters well deep into the Lost Belts. Unfortunately, without Grayling, Proto Crew falls off fairly significantly as a damage dealer, and particularly a critical damage dealer, while his own version of Gaebod simply doesn't hit as hard. It is his very versatility that holds him back, as opposed to Fate Stay Night Crew's specialization. Thus, because of his survivability, last stand role, and boss killing potential, Chulainn, being the Fate Stay Night version, is the ultimate winner of this Fate Servant War. I've been Ciandunes, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed, please leave a like, comment and subscribe. You can check out some of my most recent videos and playlists here, and feel free to check out 3-Star Superstars, Chaldea Lowlights, or the first episode of Fate Servant Wars. But thank you again so much for watching. See you soon.